Hey YouTube, what is up? We are currently 3/4 of the way through the YuGiOh Vrains era, and as a result of the release of Vrains and the subsequent link summoning mechanic, the game has changed just as with every new summoning mechanic we've had in the past. Now, I want to bring this up because it seems that at this point in the format, around 7 to 8 main sets into this format, is where we start to see the tier 0 decks start to appear. Examples being D-Rulers and Spellbooks in mid to late 2013 and Pepe in 2016. It also appears that at this point, this is where I notice the most fatigue for me personally as a player. As an example, I clearly remember playing against Pepe with my Monarch deck in locals and thinking, as the guy Wombo comboed on me for about 10 minutes straight, that the deck was way too overpowered and something had to be done. And then I shit you not, between games 2 and 3, the emergency ban list dropped, which was actually pretty funny, if you think about it timing-wise. But I still lost game 3 as a result. Anyway, the reason that I mention this is that even though I rarely upload videos anymore, I do still tend to play competitively. I guess, if you ask my friends, I'm not really all that good. But that being said, one of the few times I do upload is my annual NAWCQ vlog, which you can see the 2 previous installments of in the corners above. Now, I did actually go to Nats this year, I did bring my camera, and I did record, but something didn't feel right, and as a result, I never finished my recordings and I just decided to hang out with my friends instead. Now, this Nats felt different to me, and I wondered if it was just me. So I asked my friends, and it seems as though it was not just me feeling this way. They were all of the same mindset. My friend Kasim actually put it the best in that he said it felt just like a big regional. And if you're from New York or if you've gone to a Brooklyn regional before, you know what a big regional feels like. And that was pretty much hitting the nail exactly on the head. It didn't feel like a YCS, it didn't feel like anything was at stake. It was pretty clear that Thunder would win. Even the 14-year-old that I played round 3 saw that one coming. It wasn't until I looked back at the format and I looked back at previous formats and mechanics that I realized why. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Thunder Dragons was a tier 0 deck, but to liken Thunder Dragons and Sky Strikers to D-Rulers and Spellbooks really isn't that far off. There is a definite skill involved and it wasn't necessarily a die roll format, but I do feel like those 2 formats and those 2 time periods are pretty similar. One factor aside from the previously mentioned 7 to 8 set pattern is that I think the lack of new cards released also led to a lack of innovation. Last year we had Battles of Legend drop right before Nats hit, or pretty much right on top of Nats if I remember correctly. And as a result of that, we had the infamous Goki hand loop that involved using Gumblar Dragon and Neospatian Aqua Dolphin to literally just rip every possible play your opponent had right out of their hands. And as a juxtaposition, this year, the last release we had was Dark Neostorm, which was about 2 months before Nats. We had regionals, and we had a YCS between then. The format was already solved, and the format was already solid. Now, whether or not the format will slow down from here is also a good question. Obviously, formats do slow down and speed up. We used to be able to look at Japan, but with our format varying as much as it does, whether it be TCG exclusives or ban lists, it is not an accurate indicator. It's possible for the format to slow, like in the past where Pepe and D-Rulers both got hit and began to taper away from tier 0, and like the progression from Pepe to Blue Eyes Metal Foes or D-Rulers to Sylvan Hat. Maybe that's what we have on the way with this new Fire Fist deck and the new ban list. But I'm not sure. This format feels a little different. I think Yu-Gi-Oh's changed a little bit since those times. Now, I do understand that I'm presenting a pattern to you and then saying it might not necessarily follow this pattern, but I'm suggesting that the tapering we saw in the past might not be as pronounced as we have seen in previous formats. The ban list does not seem to be as strict as it used to be. There do not seem to be many new archetypes that we can play. So maybe that does play into it and factor into whether or not they can hit the best competitive decks as much as they might need to. Now obviously if they were to hit the top 3 decks, there would be a deck that is still the best, whether we go back to BA or something like Water becomes meta relevant again. We've seen this happen in the past, but it really does pose an interesting question. Can we actually get a format wipe of a ban list? Personally, I don't think so. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have our decks get gimped a little bit, whether it be Thunder Dragons getting Colossus to 1 or Sky Strikers getting touched. I don't really think they're going to get touched, actually. I think the deck's pretty fair at this point, at least when you compare it to the other decks that are floating around. Whether or not we get Mermaid banned, I don't know if these hits are necessarily things that are going to happen, but I do think that we are going to get light touches to the major 3 decks, but I do think that this Fire Fist deck is going to be what ushers us into a slower style of play, and hopefully I am right on that one. My ulti tankies would thank me. And the reason that I mention all of this is because I want to know what you guys feel. In my experience, these are the formats that I tend to enjoy the most, the formats that come after Tier 0, formats that are more of a battle of attrition and not a break my board or get OTK'd style format. I don't really enjoy the lockout that these formats seem to have. Mystic Mind, I'm subtweeting you right here. But I guess that's my last question. What do you guys feel? Do you feel that the pattern that I presented is actually real? Do you see the pattern? Do you feel the same way that I do? Do you seem to slow down with your appreciation of the game of YuGiOh this far into a series, 7 to 8 main sets? Or do you just enjoy YuGiOh regardless and I'm just being a whiny bitch who didn't want to record it in Nats? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to click subscribe because it's free, it's fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one.